So when we talk about powering our body and using food to power this machine, I think it's important that we talk a little bit about substances, because our modern world tells us, and marketers tell us, that we're going to get our power through a pill, through a bottle, through some kind of substance external from ourselves. And while there's truth in the fact that food can power us, there's also a whole bunch of other substances that rely on the adrenals to power us, and they tend to become addictive substances. You know, caffeine and sugar. I've been reading some studies on sugar lately, and look, I eat sugar. There's probably some on the some of the B-roll. We had a little fiasco where we ran out of gas, and we sat in the sun for 3 hours trying to get this truck started again after we ran out of gas. And Daryl, the producer, showed up with this cake that was one of these ice cream cakes. You know, we're all just hungry and we didn't have any water left, and he shows up with his ice cream cake, and we all just pigged out on it. And so, you know, like, I'm not one to say I haven't used substances to stimulate my body. I have, and that's why I want to have this conversation with you, to say where I think real power comes from. The challenge is if we wait until the moment in which our body is going, hey man, red alert, red alert, red alert, need something to drink, need something to eat, need something to power me up, then we tend to go for those things that give us the big spike. And the problem with those things is that they trigger the adrenals, and they ultimately leave us powerless. Think about this, all these energy drinks on the market, but what happens if you take them? I'll speak for myself, because again, I'm not going to try and tell you what to do or how to live. Truth is self-evident. I'm not your teacher. Life is your teacher. And when you start to pay attention to your body, it will start to teach you what it actually needs for it to really thrive. But you think about this. If you drink a power drink every single day, what happens? Within a short amount of time, you rely on that to power you. And if you don't have it, you're non-functional. I mean, think about for us coffee drinkers. What happens if we don't have coffee in the morning? We can't even function, right? What originally was a tool becomes a vice. What originally helped us to actually focus, right? Caffeine, when you first take it, helps you to focus. But then after a while, you can't focus without it. So what I want you to do is start to consider the substances that you put in your body. And what I like to encourage people to do is very consciously get present to what's going on. I have the same conversation. We're going to talk about the natural laws of sex. And I have the same philosophy around sex and food as I'm going to teach you here. And what I encourage people to do is get really present to the experience before they consume it, while they consume it, after they consume it, and start to really notice what happens. It's funny because when I ate that pico pollo chicken, we'd been shooting videos all day long, and so I wanted something. I was hungry. I was kind of tired, and I originally wasn't actually going to eat it. And for whatever reason, getting around that sweet, salt, and fat when I was in a depleted place, it just seemed really good. And I only ate that one bite of chicken and ate a couple fries, but within about 1 minute, I broke out in a sweat, and I was feeling sick. I was nauseous. I thought I was going to throw up. Why? Because I'm not used to that. One of my Dominican friends, I told her that yesterday, and she says, when I shot that video, she says, she goes, well, you need to eat junk food more often, because otherwise, if you were like stuck in a place like this, you would die because you wouldn't even be able to eat it. I'm like, I don't think that's the solution for me. But when we don't have that junk in our body reacts really strongly to it. So what I like to encourage people to do is get really present to what the experience is in your body when you're taking the substance. And I hear these stories about people that go cold turkey when they quit an addiction. And there's definitely people that have that capacity and that do that kind of thing. I tend to be a believer that the way out of addiction is not to just run from the addiction or say no to the addiction. It's to say yes to all of the things that your body actually needs. So if I had the choice yesterday between cake and green smoothie would have taken me to a much better place. If I had the choice between the green smoothie and the pico pollo, it would have been this infinitely different experience. I was in Miami one night. I was working there, and I was walking down the street, and I just had dinner, and this young guy comes up to me. He's probably about 20 years old, and he has this desperate look on his face, and he says, please, man, please, can you get me some food? It's like, I haven't eaten for 2 days. And he started to almost cry. He says, I just don't want to eat out of the garbage again. Last time I did, I got so sick, but man, I'm so hungry. And he was just imploring me to give him some food. Now, I had a full stomach, and I had money in my pocket. And so it was easy for me to, I could have taken a place of judgment, but I also got really present to the fact that I had a full stomach and money in my pocket, and I bought him dinner. And I gave him a coaching session, which I don't know if he wanted or not, but that was part of the deal. But what happens is if we deplete ourselves to that level, that our body is in this place of desperation, it will go and eat out of the trash. Same thing emotionally. If we deplete ourselves emotionally, we'll go eat out of the trash on the internet, or we'll go eat out of trash in really harmful relationships. So here's one of the ways I experience this. I consciously choose not to drink alcohol. And I had gone, I don't know, probably at least 20 years without having to drink. And I decided one day, I had this sort of this discussion that went on for several months in my mind about alcohol, and it would call to me sometimes when I'd walk past it at the grocery store, and I'd smell it and I'd see it. I hadn't had a drink in forever. And one day it just seemed like a good idea to have a drink. Those of you that drink, you know that irrational good idea thing that I'm talking about. But this time was different than when I was younger. When I was younger, I was trying to run from my emotions. I was trying to drown out the pain that was going on, the war that was inside me. This time I got super, super present. I got really calm in the experience. I listened to my body ahead of time. And there was kind of this like anticipation, this little bit of adrenaline of, I'm crossing a threshold I had decided not to cross a long time ago. And then I drank really slowly. And I tasted it, and it tasted really bad. And I'd forgotten how bad it tasted, and I thought, maybe I just need to get used to it, because I hadn't had it for so long. And I took another drink, and sure enough, it still tasted bad. And so then I just kind of forced it down, which I remembered, that's how I got through it before, so I just forced it down. So I forced it down, and then I got super present in my body. And because I've been living these natural laws, I feel centered and balanced and strong a lot of the time. And my mind is clear, and I'm connected to my body. Well, in this case, I was off a little bit, like everything was off. And I didn't like that compared to the place that I was used to living in. Whereas when I was younger, everything was off. So being off was just a way to escape it. And then for the next 2 days, I had this biting headache. Oh man, it was just this nasty little hangover, and I was snippy and I was mean. And in that moment, I was like, wow, this is one of the natural consequences of what I did to my body yesterday. Now I'm like this. And it was this fantastic experience of getting present to that particular substance in my body. And in that space, I went, I kind of just like what I have now. I don't really need that. It doesn't serve me. And that was a choice that I made. And I don't say this out of judgment. You live in your body. So I want you to start to get present within yourself. Start to listen to the food, to the substances, to these things that you're using to manage your emotions. If we're using food, look, food is fine for filling us and it can comfort us and it can do all those things, but it can't fix us. So if we're trying to use these substances to fix us, we can never get enough of them to ever get there. So my invitation to you is to get really present to this and listen. Your body will be your teacher. It will tell you what it is that you require. And as you listen to it more closely, you align with these laws of power, and you have more energy and more vitality and more health to be able to then take this machine and implement it to create what it is you want to create in your life. I've created a little cheat guide for you that helps you understand how to align your life with the 7 natural laws of power, and particularly number 2, which is mastering this primal instinct. So if you'd like to get that, just click on the button on this page and you'll get access to that, and you can start to live the 7 natural laws today.